Okay. So I'm guessing you got your sourdough starter. And I was thinking, I was like, nobody really wants to read a 13-page PDF. Maybe just a short video will help. So I was training a client today and she's like, Shauna, I don't know what to do with it. It's sitting in the fridge. I'm like, okay, so you didn't read the PDF. That's fine. This is encouraging me to make this video. So your sourdough starter came in something like this. Now, when I packaged it for you, it was coming out of something that looked like this, okay? So I put about 25 to 30 grams in here. Now, typically it takes 5 days to get to your door because let's just say that USPS is very fast. So it's probably pretty watery. So what I encourage you to do is get a different jar, just like any sort of jar. This is what I linked for you guys to use for your rising and stuff, but any jar, any cup, and put it on a scale, okay? So just take a kitchen scale. You're gonna need one of these. Take a kitchen scale and put this on here and zero it out. And then take this and dump it in here and see what's left. Maybe there's 15 grams, that's totally fine. Maybe there's 10, that's totally fine too. You just need a few grams of starter. Why are you doing this? Because even though I packaged 25 to 30, it goes away in the journey to you. It hasn't been fed in a few days, which is why when you receive it, it's really important you do something with it. If immediately you can't, you can put it in the fridge. It's not the end of the world. So zero it out. So say you pour it in here and it's 15 grams. Perfect. Now what I want you to do is zero out your scale again, okay? Hit zero, and then you're gonna add this organic bread flour. Now, if you can only find bread flour, it's not organic, that's totally up to you. King Arthur is my favorite brand. I can find it at Target. I can find it at the high-end grocery stores, wherever. So if I have 15 grams of starter, then I'm gonna add 1 to 1 to 1. That's the ratio. So 15 grams of starter, 15 grams of flour, and then 15 grams of water. Filtered water only, and room temperature is best. Sometimes I heat mine up in the microwave because our filtered water system isn't very warm. You don't want it hot, but just not freezing cold. Okay, so you got 15 grams of starter, 15 grams of flour, 15 grams of water. Take my breadstick, I'm gonna stir it all together, okay? That's it. Now, if you ordered these on Amazon, which I highly recommend, it comes in a pack of 2, you're gonna get this little thing and this top. And all I do with this is go like this, and I put it on top here, okay? And just like the one I just showed you, so I use the little clips. Sometimes I use both, sometimes I use one. It will actually pop them off when this overflows. And I cover it with a kitchen towel just like this, and I put it in my oven with the light on. That keeps the temperature. Ideal temperature is around 77 to 80 degrees. I also have a sourdough home, which most people don't have, and you don't need to invest in. The oven does a great job. However, put notes on your oven saying do not use the oven because there's sourdough in there. So you fed this 15, 15, 15. Good. It's covered. It's in the oven for at least 24 hours. Now in the notes, I write that you can feed it a couple times, so you could feed it every 12 hours. And feeding it means adding flour and water. That's what feeding means. I'm telling you, you can do it every 12 hours to start with because if you want to activate it and make bread sooner. If you don't care, just do it every 24 hours and it will eventually activate. Now, when I first started this journey, which was back in December, I kept adding, but I wasn't getting this rise. Like it gets to the top and eventually overflows. I wasn't getting that. And I think it's just because my temperature was off. It was cold, it was hot, it wasn't consistent. Also wasn't activated. I started with like little grains of dried starter, which is much harder to activate than something like this, which is what I sent you guys, okay? So then 24 hours goes by. Say you did it at 7 a.m. on Friday, 7 a.m. on Saturday. You look and it's gotten a little bit bigger, just a little bit. All I want you to do is take an empty container again, put it on the kitchen scale, zero it, and then pour the starter in there. So say there's 25 grams. Remember you started with 15, so now you're at 25, okay? Then you're gonna add 25 grams of flour and 25 grams of water. You fed it, okay? You're feeding it. And then you cover it, towel, back in the oven, another 24 hours. You're increasing your starter amount. What does that do? So eventually, about 30 grams of starter gives me something that rises to the top here. When it's very active, you see how bubbly it is, it doubles in size, very important. Everybody says don't bake with it too soon. And everybody I feel like does bake with it too soon, like you get impatient. Now, because your starter's been activated, it should activate quickly, like 3 to 7 days, depending on where you live and how you're taking care of it, all the things, okay? It's not the same for everybody. Once it goes into the oven and it's active, okay, so say the next day you're like, oh wow, there's a lot, it's tripled in size, it's all bubbly, it's reached its peak, it's ready to bake. Now I kept looking at this thing and I was like, how am I ever gonna know if it's ready to bake? And I can't find it right now, but I put a green rubber band around here. So like say I did this, I fed it and it was like here, and I wanted to make sure it doubled. So I put a rubber band on here, which was really nice. And then I knew it was ready to bake. Now, once it doubles in size, that same day, you're not gonna bake with it, okay? You have to see it double a couple of times. I recommend a couple of days, like watch it keep doubling, okay? So it's active. Otherwise, if you cook too soon, it's just gonna be dense and you're not gonna like it. It was like rocks. So that's the most important thing. And when it's ready to bake, that's when you follow the baking instructions on your PDF. I like to bake with 150 grams of starter, which means when I started this was 30 grams in here, that's it. I added the flour, the water, and then when it was ready to bake the next day, I easily can make 2 loaves of bread with this. So this is a good reference point. And then when it's baking day, I feed it the night before and I start the baking process in the morning. This works best for me. So then I pour 150 grams of starter, 150 grams of this, and I do the 435 grams of water and 600 grams of flour. All of this is in your PDF. I mix all of that together and I follow that process. Okay, so I just wanted to encourage you to start here. Now, that process, I'll run through it really quickly. You will get a nice loaf of bread, which I just baked this morning. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. On the bottom, I use cornmeal and bread flour, depending. So when you mix everything together, it's the morning of. You want to be around this day. When you're putting everything together, you want to be around. So you mix everything up and you want to do what it's called an auto lace, however you want to say it. I put plastic wrap and then a plate on top of my mixing bowl and put it in the oven for 30 minutes. This is hydrating the dough, okay? Just give it 30 minutes to rest. And then I do the stretch and fold. When I stretch and fold, the dough is in the bowl and I take the dough that's close to me and I pull it over the top away from me. And I kind of go back and forth and then I rotate the bowl back and forth. And there's videos on this. I've done videos on this. The next loaf I bake, probably today or tomorrow, I'll do more videos and email it to you if this is helpful. And then you're gonna cover back up with the plastic wrap and the plate. The most important thing is to not let the air get to the dough, otherwise it gets crusty. I made this mistake. And then another 30 minutes goes by, you're gonna do the same thing. It's called a stretch and fold. And it's help building shape and tension in your dough so it rises really, really nice. If you only have time to do this once, that's totally fine. But if you have time to do it 3 or 4 times, do it. And do it within the first 2 hours of you putting all of your ingredients together to bake the bread. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I cover it with the plastic wrap, put the plate on it in the oven with the light on. It stays there. Usually for me, it's like 7 a.m. to about 2 p.m. Okay, and how do I know that it's ready? So I have this, which I love. And so when I'm ready for it to just sit there, I put it in here. Now with the amount that I gave you guys, it goes up to 1 liter. Okay, 1 liter is when I dump all the dough in there, put the plastic wrap on top, put the plate on top, put it in the oven. Now, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., it doubles in size. It gets to 2 liters. When it gets to 2 liters, I know it's ready. I also use like a meat thermometer and check the temperature of the dough. It should be between 75 and like 81. Or 77 and 81, okay? It doesn't have to be. If it's a little hot, a little cold, you guys can Google stuff, but I'm just showing you what I do, and I love this thing. You don't need it, but it just shows me that it's completely doubled. I was using like bookmarks, like sticky tabs in my mixing bowl, and I'm like, maybe this will work. And it did, but that's better. So then 2 o'clock, I'm like, yes, I'm ready to proof. So when it sits in your oven, it's called bulk fermentation. When it comes out and it's doubled in size and you got some big kind of bubbles on it, this process is ready for proofing. And what I do is I put some powder on my counter, and listen to me, bread flour on my counter, and then I dump the dough on it, okay? And then I'm gonna create tension. So you remember you did the stretch and fold? It's something similar, but we're creating tension in the dough again to shape it, okay? And for this, I usually do the same kind of fold over, except then I roll it into a cylinder, Okay, and you can Google this stuff. I will send you videos on my next one. And you're just gonna do that once and just really kind of shape it, tuck in the corners, or tuck in the like things hanging off. You want it to be nice and round. And then I put it in the basket, the bread basket. Put it in the bread basket. Ooh. Cover it with this. Okay, this little, you can use a shower cap if you want. And then it goes in the fridge. For me, this happens at like 2:30, 3 p.m. and I don't get it out till the next morning to bake. It works best. The longer in the fridge, the better. You can do fermentation and proofing other ways. This is just what's worked for me. I pull it out the next morning, sometimes 5 a.m. if I'm like, this is going to a friend. He wanted me to bake him a loaf. And so I baked it really early this morning. I get up, I put my Dutch oven in the oven, start the oven at 425, let that get hot with the oven in it, okay? When it's preheated is when I take the bread basket with the bread out of the fridge, not until it's preheated. You don't want this getting back to room temperature. You want it cold. Why? For scoring. Shauna, what the heck is scoring? It's when you're gonna use this little tool that you bought to make a pretty design on it. It's very important. It does not have to look pretty. This looked really pretty like when I did it. So I did like these swirly S's and then like a design. You can't even see it. Like here, there's like a little design right here. Like a little leaf, and you can Google all this too, but the most important thing is having a deep score, which is like a 1/2 inch thick, like it's pretty deep, and then lighter scores. And the scoring is telling the bread where to rise. Like, hey, we're cut here, like let's rise. So if you do shitty scoring or don't do it at all, it's not gonna rise right. And I've had some pretty ugly loaves, still tasted good, but they didn't rise as nicely. The other thing that I've been doing, and that's when after I've scored it, I pull the hot Dutch oven out of the oven and I put parchment paper down. Okay, so I have parchment paper and some cornmeal and flour. That's what I use for the base. Because I've been finding when I bake with just flour and no cornmeal, it's really, really hard to cut the base. I've been like using scissors. The bread's delicious, but the base is hard to cut. So flour and cornmeal on top of the parchment paper, okay? The Dutch oven's hot, remember. So now the bread, uncooked, is sitting on the parchment paper. And in the Dutch oven, I want you to just pour a couple tablespoons of water. That's it. It's gonna steam, it's fine. Then put the parchment paper with the dough in the Dutch oven and cover it, okay? Put it in the oven, 33 minutes. And then at 33 minutes, you're gonna take the top off of the Dutch oven, okay? It's not gonna look done. It's not gonna look brown. That's what the last 15 to 20 minutes are for. The last 15, 20 minutes, I really watch it. I like our sourdough nice and crispy, so I tend to keep it in longer. But at this point, it's totally a personal preference. When you get it out, wait about an hour to cut it, otherwise it's very, very doughy. Let it settle, 1 hour, voila. Amazing, delicious. Again, I'll show you, if you like this video, like let me know. I'll send you more videos on my journey along the way to show you kind of exactly how I do things. There's no perfect way, and this took me months to figure out, so I'm hoping with an activated starter that you guys can just get your journey started a lot quicker than I can start mine. But everything I linked in the PDF, you're gonna wanna get those things. These are like the OG, I have 4 of them now. This was a bonus, but a good bonus because I can just watch it double. And again, I know here from like 7 a.m. to 2 is about the time frame that mine needs to stay in the oven. So you don't need to be obsessed and just keep opening the oven every hour, just check, because there's such thing as over fermentation and under fermentation, and it really changes the consistency of your dough. That's all I got for you. If you like this video and you want me to send more of these, if they're helpful, let me know. Don't forget, when you're making the bread, you have to add in salt. So you add in flour and water, remember, when you're making the bread, and during the stretch and fold is when you can add in the salt, or you can add it in with the flour and water. I don't care. 10 to 12 grams of salt at some point when you're putting the bread together. It makes no difference. I've read a lot up on this. It doesn't matter. So sea salt, I have Celtic salt, whatever you want to use. Again, I just get an empty container, zero out my scale and measure it. It doesn't have to be complicated. Although when you read about it, you're like, I don't know what any of these words mean. This is hard. It's not very hard. Okay? I love you. I'm here for you. I'm proud of you. Let's make some sourdough. Please send me pictures of your dough, of your loaf, of your failed attempts. Don't give up. I'm here for you. Drink your water, eat your veggies, smile.